welcome to Take It Up with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Fiona Blakesley, who is the Director of Customer Success at Intuit. Fiona, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jessica. It's great to be here with you.
I wanted to invite you on in celebration of Women's History Month. And you are a woman in tech at a very well-known company, and it is also tech season. So can you share with us your role and what is exciting in your role in customer success?
Yes, absolutely, Jessica. So my role is as Director of Modern Operations within our professional tax business unit, so our Pro Connect business unit, where you mentioned we're in tax season. It's where we support the professional tax preparer. And my role, I've had a long career in customer care or customer success. And most recently, I'm focused on really three areas within my role. I'm responsible for our outsourced partners who deliver a significant percentage of our delivery of customer success for our customers. Also learning and development, so we have a significant seasonal intake of staff to meet the needs of our enormous peak in tax season. And so I have responsibility for that and for the development of our customer success teams. And then finally, I'm responsible for our operations team, where we're really focused on data and analytics, forecasting, scheduling, all of the kind of the core operational functions that really really the engine really that make things tick. Another part of my role, you mentioned Women's History Month. I'm also the local co-chair for our Intuit Women's Network here in Plano, and that's an area that I'm incredibly passionate about in terms of connecting with other women at the site, but also really building a platform for them to connect and for them to kind of develop to their fullest potential.
That's wonderful. This is like four major areas that you mentioned. So I would like to ask about the whole talent attraction and retention. Right. I think that in fact there's a challenge around finding qualified, say, very technical resources. And there's also a lot of interest in having more women participate in the tech field. So I'm sure Intuit has fantastic programs. Maybe you can share about that.
Yes, I mean, we do have many programs, and it's a very active focus. We have an overall focus on diversity inclusion. In fact, a year ago, we appointed Scott Beth as our Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. So really setting a stand for making sure that focus was seen company-wide. I mean, I think hiring can be very, very challenging. It's hard to find great people, but I think our programs and our networks are a big part of what makes Intuit, a great place to work and what brings people to us. We also have programs designed to get women technologists that may have taken a career break for whatever reason, get them back into Intuit, get them back into the workplace and help them to make that transition. We have very good levels of representation right from the board down through all of both our regional centers and also our teams. From my personal perspective, I believe teams are always more successful with diverse perspectives. So for me, I'm always looking to foster that and look for what I can do as a leader to help people really bring their whole selves to work each day and really feel like they can be themselves and they can thrive as themselves. And I think oftentimes there can be a lot of talk around that in companies, but I really see it in Intuit that we really put resources around that, focus, leadership training, many different things to make sure that that's a reality rather than just words.
I think Intuit has the diversity and inclusion stats on their website. So it's very publicly available and the company is committed. And that's a great role model for other companies. Maybe you can share some of the best practice of how Intuit has done it that other companies might want to implement too if they're not there yet.
Yeah, I think that there's a number of different things. Some of them are focused on diversity and inclusion. Some are, I would say, core to our to our culture, but they really enable people to thrive. So one example I would give is a focus on development. So we have, a monthly process whereby everyone has a very focused conversation around development with their leader every month. And this is right from the CEO throughout the entire organization. So it's a very significant investment in ongoing development discussions. And with that comes that focus on, when you click down within that conversation, there's a focus on kind of personal goals. There's a focus on obviously the business goals. There's also elements around feedback. So every employee is encouraged to get 360 feedback on an ongoing basis. But it's a two-way street. Everyone's also encouraged to provide feedback in the moment, or in tandem with some of these monthly check-ins. So that's one of the areas that I see people really feel that investment, and they feel that focus. And by being very intentional and by committing it, in writing, there's a written document that supports this monthly conversation. It enables people to feel more empowered in their development. It helps leaders get focused on what's really important to that individual. And it also opens up just a different kind of conversation to the run the business conversations, the day-to-day, the demands of business that we can all, I think, get very drawn into on a day-to-day basis. It lifts out of that and makes sure you're having that regular conversation. I think another part that's inherent in the culture is around our employee network. So Intuit Women's Network is just one of, I think, 11 different networks. So we have networks for the Muslim population at Intuit, our Christian network. There's multiple different networks. And it creates, again, a platform for women in this case to come together, to get support, guidance, development focus. We also create a lot of events for our members. So on International Women's Day, for example, we all had a screening. We watched the movie RBG. We've had, it's a great movie.
Great movie. I love that.
It is, yeah, absolutely. We've also had, events where we'll have external speakers come in and talk about diversity inclusion, or talk about, for example, we have something coming up in April, which is focused on women feeling confident in negotiation conversations. We have many senior speakers from the company that will come and talk to the team. So again, it just opens up a different avenue for support and development conversations. One of our most successful events just in recent months was actually a speed networking event where we brought in both external and internal specialists to help with those speed mentoring conversations. And so people literally, almost like speed dating, would go around and meet with many different mentors. And they prepared for the exchange and had questions that they could just get some quick answers to. They could also get different perspectives from different mentors, both outside the company and inside the company.
Okay. You mentioned about the negotiation for salary and the mentoring. Was there a teaching around making sure that there's equal pay for the job that you're doing and comparing that to others?
Well, as you've probably seen from your research on Intuit, we have a very significant focus on making sure we have that parity around pay. The event is actually coming up. It's at the end of April, so it's an upcoming event. But even just last week, you may have seen in the press, Scott Beth, was part of a United Nations event where we signed a declaration around our commitment to gender diversity. So, throughout the entire organization, there's that very, very strong commitment. Extremely important. And I think that makes it easier at every other level of the company when you've got that such significant role modeling at the top of the organization. So that was the Parliament 51 directive that we were part of and signed last week.
That's fantastic. And I want to shift the conversation to a bit more of the challenges in your role, customer success, managing global teams and outsource services. And the 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 demand for SaaS solutions. I know I do my tax online too, and tax filing online. And so the market is huge. The growth is huge, and I know Intuit's been doing very well. But share with us maybe some of the challenges and how you've solved them.
Yes. I think, one of the challenges is this I'm speaking now from a customer success perspective, is we have an incredible peak in our season. So we have significant increases in our customer interactions throughout tax season. So from January through to the middle of April. And that creates a need for a very significant scaling in our workforce. And one of the things we've been doing over the last 2 years is really experimenting with different types of sourcing. So experimenting more with work from home, with on-demand models where people are working from home and they're potentially working part-time. So they may be working 15 to 30 hours a week rather than that traditional 40 hours. And what we found there is that also attracts a different and a diverse group of people that we're not able to attract if we're looking for somebody for 40 hours a week, in a particular kind of bricks and mortar location. What it also allows us to do is to kind of flex our capacity. So if you have a very large group of people working part-time, if you get a significant peak in demand, you can kind of draw down on that and draw down on those individuals for those specific, what we would call moments of truth. So tax deadline day would be a great example where, our volumes are significantly higher than any other day that year. And so by having a part-time work from home workforce or a percentage, that fall into that category, you can pull in a lot more individuals than you could otherwise. And I think one of the learnings that we've had over the last 2 years is really using that workforce with precision has been hugely beneficial, both from a capacity perspective, but also from an expertise perspective. And what I love about that is it's also allowing people who may not be able to work full time. We might have veterans, for example, we might have people with PTSD where they're not able to leave the house every day and work in a particular, location, but they can work from home. And they bring a huge amount to the role, a huge commitment that we wouldn't otherwise be able to tap into. And that's just one example. They may have, family commitments. They might be caring for an elderly relative, whatever it might be that prevents them from working 40 hours a week in an office, but still absolutely want to work and have a huge amount to offer. So that's been one of the benefits that I'm a huge advocate for, is in terms of that diversity of the workforce.
And what results are you seeing? Is the quality still just as good, and the cost is lower, and that's just more flexibility in managing operation?
Yeah, the cost is typically lower. The flexibility is a huge play, but also it gives us a great breadth of hiring possibilities, because we're drawing down on the entire US workforce. So we're able to hire at the scale that we need. And what we found is if we train with precision, then we can get the right level of expertise. And we can also be more precise in that hiring profile because we're drawing from a much bigger area.
Fascinating.
Yes.
So when you say train with precision, can you explain a little bit more? How do you ensure the quality is the same when you have all these resources globally getting on and becoming a customer success manager, an expert in your product?
I think what we've learned in terms of the training process is that we really need to equip people with knowledge, but also with the tools and the skills to be able to find answers, kind of a resourcefulness. And if I track back 2 or 3 years, our new hires would probably spend about 9 weeks in a classroom. And what we found was once they left the classroom, there were many people that, the job wasn't for them. They didn't necessarily enjoy the environment of being in a customer success organization and taking contact after contact. Similarly, they weren't always effective. That knowledge, because they'd been so long in a classroom, there was almost too much knowledge. for them to assimilate. Whereas now what we do in our approach is we'll train for, say, 2 weeks. And we do a much bigger mix of practical kind of hands-on application, as well as self-paced learning, as well as classroom-based learning. And then after that 2 weeks, they'll go live into production. So they have a chance to kind of road test the role, really apply what they've learned. And then they may go back into a classroom for 1 or 2 weeks and then, follow that process through. So they're constantly building on their learning rather than this enormous kind of upfront wealth of information that was very, very difficult to consume. And what we also find is, people get to try the job so much sooner and know that they can be effective. It builds their confidence rather than building something up to something that then becomes very scary at the end of 9 weeks. Yeah.
Yes, that sounds much better. Smaller, bite-sized content that
Yes.
they can learn and start practicing that, and then come back and learn some more and practice some more.
Yes, yes.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, Fiona. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us about Intuit, about the customer success domain that you are in and managing a global team.
Well, thank you, Jessica. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to share what we're doing.
And please come back and join us again next time you are in town. This month is Women's History Month. I wanted to have you on as one of the women in tech. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Jessica. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Take It Up with Jessica Lee.